Alright guys, I've been working on this thing for 3 to 4 days now. I'm not going to get into the chassis in this video. I just wanted to get the top chopped and start trying to get an idea of how I can use this original buggy suspension. So far this is the best bed I've come up with. That suspension is not, the front end's very bulky, to say the least, and I am going to have to cut it to get it to articulate up to the angles that I need. And I'm not sure yet about shocks or anything. I'm trying to hang on to the stock shock mounts that are on it, but they are causing me the most problem as far as getting all this to fit with the body. If I chop the towers off, it will be able to slide back just a hair more. But I'm happy with the wheelbase. I'm probably going to have to modify the nose cone more. I cut the bottom of it off. I hated to. Lost my nicely painted blinkers and I accidentally cut one. So that's toast, but I need to angle the headlights up more anyway. So we'll cross that bridge next time. But the chop is done. That was a pain in the butt. I don't know what it is. My plastic weld, it just was not drying very well. I don't know if I was mixing it good or not. But definitely need to find some new kind of bonding agent. So you can see on the back quarters, I chopped this. It's kind of unique. I can't really move it around right now. I don't want to mess up my mock-up. I need that there for brainstorming, but let me get you a side shot. So the way I chopped it, there's a lot of different methods. Volkswagens are known for being difficult to chop in real life. So many compound curves. Every piece of it is a compound curve. So I was trying to do it the easiest way as possible because dealing with styrene is not my expertise. Trying to put everything back on and line it up is just going to be a nightmare. A lot of people, they'll just chop it and then they'll fill in, they'll section the roof in half, and this way sometimes because of the angles of the front, and they'll bring the rear down and then they'll just fill the center. I didn't want to do that. I didn't necessarily go after the raked look, but it was just the easiest way that I could think of doing it. So the back is all intact. The back window, the rear deck lid, the cut is here diagonally from the wheel arch, and so these were already widened out because I was mocking this up before. That was the easiest place to get it to go, and I used the flexibility of the plastic to my advantage a little bit. So I took, where's the pieces at? I must have finally thrown them away. Took about, say, 1/4 inch out of the front pillars, and luckily the flexibility of the plastic, I was able to just to get them to line up without having to section the top and widen it, do anything drastic that was going to be a nightmare to try and glue back together. Yeah, I was just able to hold them together and clamp it together, and it dried well enough and stayed flexed out to where it needed to be. The B pillars, in doing that, basically the whole roof moved forward to line up the A pillars. So that's where everything started with. And then the B pillars, you can see, are angled forward now. That's the reason why I cut the whole B pillar out. I cut it flat at the top, flat at the bottom. Is it moved forward about 1/4 inch also, and I just kind of shaved down the ends of it and lined it back up and the best I could and glued them back in place, and they're holding pretty well. I had to recut my door groove, the crack for the door seam and everything, and ideally if you're doing this with a real car it'd be a lot easier because it's so much bigger and you can get in there and be more precise with it, but I'm pretty happy with how they came out. I had a couple small gaps I had to come back with the Tamiya putty to fill in. Luckily it wasn't that bad. Little sanding, a little shaping, and just covered it with iron paint. I did hit it with the activator, but it's going to take it a while to rust, and I'm just going to let it happen naturally because that's when it looks the best. So having that rear, your C-pillar, all still intact saved me a whole lot of cutting and gluing because there's really not enough of the back of this because it is the Baja Bug trunk, short trunk lid. So I was trying to, basically instead of trying to, I just realigned the window trim, and that body line actually lined up pretty well. And I just cut a small piece out because the whole roof shifted forward, and then I glued it back together. But the flex of the body and everything, that glue, it kept pulling apart. And I didn't want to, I had it overnight and it came apart. One side stayed together after the second time, and the other side came apart when I unclamped it because the vice grips I used had glued themselves to the glue better than, that makes sense. The plastic weld stuck better to the metal tool than it did the actual plastic body, but it is what it is. So crafted up some little sheet metal plates and bolted them on with scale hardware. And I'm pretty happy with that because, if I can zoom you in, I shaped them to the body line. So they have a little bit of contour to them. And again, I did that on both sides just because that's going to be a stress point on the body. And I wanted to strengthen it up completely. Not sold on the rear tires and wheels. It's just the only ones I have that will fit that rear end. And that is the Tamiya SRB buggy rear end. And I want the camber. If we're keeping the front beam, keeping true with Volkswagen, we need camber in the rear. And it is setting a little higher in the back than I like. I've got the suspension propped up with some wheels because with the suspension all the way down, I have so much camber that it just won't be drivable. So we're going to have to build the frame to accommodate for raising the rear end up in the body, basically. And yeah, right now the motor is sitting, the trunk lid is sitting on one bolt of the motor. So it is going to require some trimming, and these don't have, the two of these buggies I bought, if you watched that other video, I don't have the rear cage. I need the rear cage, and I really want to do the scale Volkswagen motor. And I'm thinking I may rob the one off of the Apocalypse buggy because it's perfectly patinaed and ready for this, and I think that would look killer on here. And I haven't done anything with that buggy in a while, so it may be getting a new life. But yeah, I haven't really, windows are probably just going to do Lexan. But I did want to retain all the pillars. I even cut and re-glued in the vent window trim there because that's, you know, I don't want to have one big open window. I know that's kind of cool looking in a certain style, but this is more rat rod, so, you know, I wanted to retain all the windows so it looks still more like an original vehicle that's been hacked up rather than some ultra modern contemporary version of a Volkswagen Beetle. So I think that's about it for the body work. The biggest issue I'm running into here is going to be the beams, and they're designed to be angled down really far and have a lot of up travel. So they have these little tabs, my pointer here, right here, that prevent it from going up, and I need it to go up, not as much down. So I'm going to have to trim these upper radius arms, trim that piece off. I just hadn't had the courage to hack up these vintage parts yet. I really don't want to cut the shock towers at all, but I'm definitely going to have to cut that. I've looked at other options as far as like flipping. The bottom one only has one tab and stuff like that, but don't think that's going to pan out right because the way it is. But we'll have to tear it apart, take a closer look at it. But I think I should be able, I've got a 1/2-inch square tubing underneath the front. I think I can get the amount of lift I need, not going much further than this. And the things are spun here, but it should allow me to put the steering behind the grill, and everything should be pretty simple. Depending on how the chassis and layout goes, I'm going to incorporate the servo mount and everything, but we've got all kinds of room in here. Using the buggy rear end, I mean, we've got gearbox and motor and everything taken care of. We don't have to worry about drive shafts. I've got the 3D printed Volkswagen engine, so I think we're really onto something. My little sail panels here on the side, my little pieces here, probably going to need to come further out. I'm running out of the scale hardware there and the nuts for them too. So I don't know how we're going to fill that gap yet. And like I said, I still want to try to angle the nose cone up a little bit so the headlights are parallel. Because right now they're parallel with the body. And that angle is up in the back. And yeah, so lots of little things to figure out, but it'll all come together. Right now I'm pretty happy. I've been wanting to chop the top on this since I painted it a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever it was. And I just wasn't ready for the challenge. But now with all this free time in the quarantine, had time to finally tackle some of these bigger projects. But I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. And stay tuned for more on this build to come. And if you want to see behind the scenes stuff, check me out on Instagram and Facebook, RC Everyday. Keep it scale.